So in the last class we ended here, right? Yes, we saw the different types of flames, right? And now we're going to look at the welding, gas welding equipments. Okay, so you have the gas cylinders, right? Those are there. Those are the important critical elements: oxygen and acetylene, right? And the brushes that are there given, as we have kept units as kgs and centimeter squares. So when we're following those units, then this is what the pressures would be in those gas cylinders. And the regulators, working pressure of oxygen 1 kg per centimeter square, acetylene 0.15. Working pressure varies depending upon the thickness of the workpieces welded. So if the thickness is high and the material is hard, or the temperature required to melt it is high, then the working pressure would vary, of course, right? That's common sense. So it varies. That's what is being highlighted, depending on the thickness of the workpiece. Pressure gauges, right? Those are there for us to know how much pressure is it that we want to keep for particular applications. Hoses, right, for connecting the gas cylinders to the torch. Welding torch, of course, and check valve, non-return valve, so that it doesn't return, as the name suggests. It's only a one-way valve for the flame, for the mixture of gases, for that, so that one. Let me explain it here. You see, so that if you don't have the non-return valve, the mixture which is formed here because of because of the combination of two gases, right? One coming from the oxygen cylinder, one coming from the acetylene cylinder, you have a mixture forming here. So if that mixture goes back again, it goes to the two pipes. So both of those, right? It will go through both of those pipes, hoses technically, and inside those thing, right? So this would create what? A combination, right? It wouldn't be an oxygen cylinder by itself, and this wouldn't be an acetylene cylinder. So a non-return valve for that reason, right? So this is what is the apparatus for gas welding, right? What we have seen so far: oxygen is required, oxygen cylinder, acetylene cylinder, both having valves, right, that control the amount of gases that come out. The gauges to check the pressure, and the pressure regulating screw, right? That is there. Those are the auxiliary equipments, we can say. Critical being the cylinders, the valves, and the hoses, of course, and the torch, right? So this is what those pipes would look like, right? The colors are what is important. They're denoted with standard colors. Okay. This maroon one for acetylene and green one for oxygen is the generally denote, right? So that is the apparatus for gas welding, right? The mixture is combined here, and when they come out, you ignite it with an external flame, and it continues, right? You can regulate it with the help of this what do you call, pressure regulating screw, right? How much of it is required? I'm sorry, the valve, right? So that's what is there, and you see here any more information that you can get. Yes, wrenches would also be there sometimes, and here is your valve, right? Because generally, as I said, the proportion would vary, right? Based on the proportion, you get different types of flame, and hence the different temperatures. So if you want to control the temperature, you have to control the proportion of gases, acetylene and oxygen. So how do you control that? You control that with this valve here. One valve for this fuel gas, which is acetylene in our case, and oxygen. To control the oxygen, we have the other valve. So The proportion can be varied with these valves. These are very important in controlling the temperature, and therefore the what do you call, flame that we get, right? Okay, you see, that's how it looks like. This is your torch, right? And this rod is your filler material, right, which is supplied here. That weld you're seeing is formed because of melting of this filler rod, right? So this is a particular application wherein tubes are welded, right? You have this incline, right? It's coming on incline onto this pipe, right? So you have that weld there. So that's gas welding, right? That's what it looks like. That's your flame right there. As I said, depending on the color, I mean, depending on the proportion of the gases, the color of the flame would change. And what else do we have here? You see here, as I said, oxygen, acetylene. You denoted with that color, not just the color. I even mentioned the thread design, right? That was also the thing that I mentioned, that even an ignorant person, the one who does not know which pipe belongs to which cylinder, right? Which one to connect it to which cylinder, he will not be able to connect it except that he connects it correctly because of the threading, left and right hand threading, as I had mentioned. This is very important because it would lead to a lot of unsafe, right? It would lead to a lot of problems because of irregular flame, or a flame that if it does not combust properly, then you would have a lot of other products, right, which might be harmful for the welder or for the atmosphere where the welding is being done. So to avoid all of that, you have to ensure that proper hoses are connected at the proper cylinder location. So this is the cross-sectional view of that torch. You have the welding torch handle, right? So for it to be held by the welder, you have this mixer here, wherein these two gases will mix, right? And then it leads to that welding tip, right? Which you have seen here in that image. That's your welding tip. This one is your mixer. So that's what happens, as we have seen in that example. The filler rod was supplied. The flame is melting the filler rod, not just the filler rod. It is trying to preheat this, what do you call, plate, if you want to call it, right? The sky blue one. So that's what leads to the weld. This gets heated up, and the filler rod is melted. The filler rod gets deposited in the gap of those between the two plates. And that's what we call a molten pool, because it is completely melted, right? So that's why we call it a molten pool. Okay. So, right, the advantages of gas welding is that you have a simple equipment, right, as compared to the other types of welding, the other setups that we have. This one is a quite simple equipment. You just require 2 cylinders, hoses, and a torch, right? Filler material if required. So it is portable, right? The cylinders can be taken anywhere. Portable in that sense, and inexpensive also, right? Depends on the fuel availability, right? This is what do you call, a relative factor, right? Based on the availability. Easy for maintenance and repair, right? Because only setup that you require is that cylinder, those cylinders, and the torch. Any problem with the torch, you can maintain it. I'm sorry, you can repair it, and even for the cylinders, right? If at all required, I mean, once they have run out of fuel, you can refill it, both oxygen and fuel, acetylene. So that's why we say it's easy for maintenance and repair. So you can understand it well after you have looked at all types of welding. That's when you can understand it better, because the points are relative. We are trying to have uh, a relative understanding that other types of welding are not so easy to maintain and repair, and therefore we are calling this one as easy to maintain and repair. That's how it goes, right? So once you have seen all types of welding, and if you reread this, you'll have a better understanding of what we are talking about. And then the disadvantages, right, are that you have a limited power density, right? If the power is not so dense, the power that we are getting, right, out of that heat energy is not that dense. We have a limited power density here, right? As of course I mentioned, this point is as compared to the other welding types, right? We'll see as in the course of this unit. Hopefully. A very low welding speed here, right? It doesn't melt. As I said, limited power density. So you have to go a little bit slow, right? The very low welding speed, high total heat input per unit length, right? That is also there. And I mean, when you're comparing it with for a given length, right? That's when you can say it is high total heat input per unit length is required, and large heat affected zone. We have gave you an understanding of what is the heat affected zone. That when the metal gets heated, you have stresses generated, right? Stresses are induced in that component. So that comes off as uh, a non-uniform component, right? But a particular zone in the component would be having different properties because of the heat that was given, right? Heat affected zone. The heat generated because of this flame has affected some parts of the component, especially the components which are near to the weld, right? So that's your heat affected zone. If I can show you here, that is your heat affected zone. This is your weld, right? This we can call the heat affected zone. And if you can observe, the color has changed, right? Indicating the temperature had increased and then it went down, right? Which was cool. So that counts as a heat affected zone, not just the melt, the weld, but that which is surrounding it, right? Even this part of the tube, wherever the heat can go, there will be a significant portion which will be affected by that heat of the weld. Severe distortion, right? Because of increase of temperature, you have expansion, right? Basically distortion, change of shape. So distortion is there, quite severe, and not recommended for welding reactive metals, such as titanium and zirconium, right? Gas welding is not used for these kind of reactive metals. We have some other welding type. You have to have some other welding type, otherwise it would lead to a lot of reactions, and the application that we are trying to use these materials would fail, right? They will not function as you have designed it. Is that clear so far? Gas welding? Because I think that's the end of, yes, that's the end slide for gas welding. If there are any doubts, you can ask. Okay. So you see the next topic is arc welding, or technically electric arc welding. Okay. You might have seen this on the roadside, just as gas welding. This is also very common. So technically it's electric arc welding, but generally it's called arc welding. So it's the same thing. Okay, that's the first thing to note. You see, to start with, we know many things around us are welded, right? That's the common point. But point is pipelines that bring fresh water. What applications, right? Just to give you an understanding of this process, we'll first look at where and why this process is to be used. Pipelines, we know, right, that bring fresh water to us. These are to be joined, right? Because we cannot make them of long. I mean, there has to be certain length where we have to cut the pipe, right, for ease of transportation. So when you are trying to uh, uh, have those continuous pipelines, we have to weld it, right? As in towers that carry electricity to houses, even those towers, big towers, are also welded, also to be welded, and cars and buses that take people where they need to go, even cars and buses, as we have talked about, as I told you, BIW, word in white, the external shape of that car, sheet metal, is also to be welded, right? So arc welding continues to be used extensively in the construction of steel structures, right? That's a particular application for civil engineering and industrial fabrication. So that is why I highlighted those that steel structures, right? Because when you are designing those steel structures, you have to take into account the way they were manufactured, right? Because that also counts. I mean, that is also to be taken into account when you are designing it. When you are trying to say such a structure would uh, generate so and so stresses, it has to account for the way it was manufactured. For example, if it was welded, you have to take into account those residual stresses because of the heat affected zone of the weld, right? So this is why this subject comes in handy, right? Uh, Especially to civil engineers, because steel structures, as we know, are to be welded. They are being welded to be able to create those shapes, right? Complicated shapes and uh, structures that we have. So the process is used primarily to weld iron and steels, including stainless steel, but aluminum, nickel, and copper alloys can also be welded with this method. So primarily used for these iron and steels, including stainless steel, but even these other alloys can also be welded, because you see aluminum, nickel, and copper when they are not so high temperature metals. That's why this is not usually done for those materials. But for materials that are having higher melting temperatures, this is well suited to and also used primarily. It dominates other welding processes in the maintenance and repair industry, right? It's popular because it can be used in the field without complicated equipment and gases, right? As we had in that, what do you call it? The last one, gas welding, right? So gases are not involved here. That's what is the major difference. And it's not much complicated equipment that is there here. The welding in which so just to what do you call, define it in simple words, the welding in which the electric arc is produced to give heat for the purpose of joining two surfaces is called electric arc welding, or generally arc welding, right? So that electric arc is what is important, which is what makes it arc welding, right? Electric arc is produced to give heat for the purpose of joining two surfaces, right? That arc will produce the heat. That heat will melt those two surfaces which are to be joined, and therefore it will join. That's called electric arc welding, or generally arc welding, right? Joining is by fusing of two or more pieces of metal together by using the heat produced in an electric arc, right? Fusing is what is being highlighted here. We're trying to fuse the metals, right? Fusion is happening because of heat generation. The arc is like a flame of intense heat that is generated as the electrical current passes through a highly resistant area. Okay, so that arc is like a flame of intense heat that is generated as the electrical current passes through a highly resistant area. That's what is the principle. We are going to see a slide on principle also. The principle of the arc generation. So a glimpse, what do you call, introduction to that is this point, that because of the air gap, there is resistance, and because of the resistance to what? To the electric current, right? The current has to pass from one end to the other end. There is a gap in between. The gap produces resistance, and the resistance is responsible for generating the heat, right? That resistance will lead to the intense heat, right? And that heat is what is responsible for melting the metal, right? So that fusion takes place or coalescence takes place, right? That's that. In a nutshell, that's what arc welding is. Okay. So you see, a manual arc welding process. Manual in the sense where a human is required, right? Humans are used for this arc welding. Even there are even robots also, but contemporarily this has been, traditionally this has been a manual arc welding process. Right now it is being automated, right? But it has been a manual arc welding process that uses a consumable electrode coated in flux to lay the weld, right? Consumable electrode is what is highlighted because the electrode what we are using will be consumed by the weld, right? We are going to use the electrode also for the weld purpose, because there are other welding types wherein you are using a non-consumable electrode. So the electrode will not be used up. The electrode is only responsible for heating up the two components which are to be welded, and therefore the joint would take place. You might have a filler material which will be responsible for that supplying of metal, additional metal, but the electrode will not be consumable in those other categories. For example, gas tungsten arc welding. GTAW is what we call gas tungsten arc welding, that uses a non-consumable electrode. So unlike that, you have a consumable electrode. That's what is the significant difference here between arc welding and that gas tungsten arc welding. Okay, so consumable electrode, 1 point. It is coated in flux to lay the weld, right? We'll see why that flux is there. But point to be noted is you have an electrode which is coated with flux. Okay. An electric current in the form of either alternating current, AC or DC, right, is from a welding power supply is used to form an electric arc between the electrode and the metals to be joined, right? So that there is flow of current from the electrode to the metals to be joined. That is what is happening. The core wire conducts the electric current to the arc. Core wire provides filler metal for the joint. That core wire, right, it conducts the electric current to the arc. So let me show you, right? We'll go back to the slide, but let's have an understanding of this diagram. So this is your electrode holder. Okay, this is your electrode. This is the workpiece that you're trying to join, right? This electrode holder is connected to what? An input power, right? This is your power source, right? Arc welding power source. So one part of it is connected to your electrode holder. The other part is connected to the base metal or the table on which the base metal is placed, right? So what happens is, when you're trying to, when this power source, right, this, of course, this power source has to have some other power source, right, wherein it will draw the current. So once it gives current, right, once the current flows from this power source to this electrode holder, right, it flows from the electrode holder, because the electrode holder is carrying the electrode. It will flow through the electrode, right? The current passes through the electrode until it reaches the tip of the electrode, right? From the tip, when there is a gap between the tip and the workpiece, right, this one is a positive. Okay, let's consider this to be positive, positively charged, and the workpiece is negatively charged. So you have this affinity that once the current reaches the end of the electrode, it is trying to pass, right, from this electrode to this plate, right, because of the positive and negative charge. But because you have kept some distance, right, the welder will keep a distance between the electrode and the workpiece. Because of the gap, the current tries to jump from the electrode to the workpiece, right? Because of that air gap, resistance is there. Because of that resistance, you have heat being generated, and therefore that arcs, right? That arc is generated because of that resistance. And once heat is generated, you have the melting of the metal, right? Which you're trying to join, or the filler metal also, right? If at all you're using a filler material, then that will also be melted. But in our case, our electrode is our consumable electrode. So this will supply the filler material, right? In that sense, the filler metal will be provided by the electrode. Okay. Doubts so far? No doubts. Okay. So you see that core wire, right? This electrode will have a core wire, right? I said the electrode will have coating also. So on the core wire, you have coating, right? The core is the filler metal, right? It is completely metal. And above that, right, on top of that, you have